There's no chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs. And then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to clap. They're like, okay, explaining to the people, okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause. Let's practice this right now.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in. Every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of doofuses in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
ask him how many.
What he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do. His show's dying.
A Hollywood late-night moment suddenly flips when Joe Rogan and former President Donald Trump team up for a double hit of verbal fire. That smug smirk on Jimmy Kimmel's face quickly shifts to a forced grin as he struggles to keep up. Rogan delivers his usual unfiltered MMA-style takedown, while Trump fires back with his signature bold political jabs, leaving Kimmel looking like a primetime punching bag. There's no mercy, no safety net, just two completely different powerhouses cutting through his ego, career, and every self-important punchline he once thought was clear. This isn't playful banter, it's a full-on comedic demolition.
Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time, and I would say pretty much from the beginning. Colbert has no talent. I mean, I could take anybody here, I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, you know, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that.
Donald Trump teamed up with Joe Rogan to dismantle Jimmy Kimmel with flair. Trump grabbed the mic, lit up the stage, and turned the late-night host into a marshmallow roasting over the flames of political missteps and mediocre comedy. He didn't even need to try hard. With a few sharp lines, he compared Kimmel's career slide to the 2008 stock market crash. Once the golden boy of late-night TV, Kimmel now clings to his ratings like a raccoon clutching a trash can lid, hoping there's still something left to grab. Trump painted such a clear picture of Kimmel's shrinking audience that you could almost see the empty seats in his studio, huddled together, swapping stories of better days.
Because the guy was so polarizing.
Boy, wouldn't it be fun to put Donald Trump in that hot seat, see how much that genius really knows?
And because he was such an easy guy to turn into a Nazi.
What would you say to him if you could get this thing?
I would say, please, have a seat. You know what? Any time you spend on a game show is another hour you're not being president.
You pointed to him, you're like, the way he talks, he's going to ruin the world.
Can't tackle Donald Trump. He is the most important, the smartest, the most capable leader in the world, and he's not going to let someone push him around.
The threat to democracy, we could do anything we can to stop him. So what do? They stop all the primaries.
Trump, as has now been well established, is the greatest negotiator, the greatest deal maker, the greatest diplomat, and the greatest peacemaker that we have ever seen in this country.
They don't have real primaries anymore. They haven't had a real primary since 2012.
I do believe that it will be Donald Trump and Elon Musk who were reflected as two of the saviors of this country and really of the entire world.
They rig.
Trump didn't just go after Kimmel's weak jokes. He went after his entire brand. He pointed out how Kimmel seems more interested in acting like a moral philosopher than actually entertaining anyone. His monologues, Trump said, have the energy of a substitute teacher who knows the class is about to tear him apart. And as if sinking ratings weren't enough, they're dropping faster than a cement block in a swimming pool. Trump drove the point home. Kimmel's whole act now relies on pretending to be relevant by taking shots at people far more interesting than himself.
At least with late night television, nobody anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah. Yeah, the creativity's gone for late night comedy, right? Like, that's not really a thing anymore.
You got Jimmy Fallon doing a song about different variants.
Just when Kimmel thought he could hide behind his Hollywood smugness, Trump hit him hard, tying his self-righteous persona to the decline of late-night television. He painted Kimmel as a leftover from a time when viewers had no choice but to watch whatever was on. In today's era of streaming and English options, Trump joked, Kimmel is like a forgotten VHS tape nobody wanted, sitting in a clearance bin next to outdated 90-second workout videos. By the time Trump was done, Kimmel wasn't just roasted. He was charbroiled, deep-fried, and served up with a big side of irrelevance.
Remember the Academy Awards? I said how he's the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards. And this stupid guy goes up, and just before the Best Picture of the Year, the show is almost over. They're waiting for the Best Picture of the Year. He gets up, and he says, and his wife said, please don't do it. Please, darling, don't go out. His manager said, don't do it. I have to do it. He goes out and reads my truth to the entire audience right before the best prime time, the Best Picture, and it said basically, he is the worst host of the history. He reads the whole thing, and then I think he said something like, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me, or some crap like that. I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a...
Then Joe Rogan grabbed the mic, and Kimmel's rough night officially turned into a full-blown disaster. Rogan skipped any warm-up and went straight for the kill, treating Kimmel's career like an old punching bag tucked away in a dusty gem. He started by ripping into Kimmel's manufactured Hollywood persona, reminding everyone that the same guy who once appeared in blackface on national TV now acts like he's the moral authority of late night. With sharp precision, Rogan called out that hypocrisy, comparing Kimmel's virtue signaling to a used car salesman bragging about the free air freshener on a completely totaled car.
I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent. See if you can guess which former...
Rogan's roast didn't just hit Kimmel's politics, it went after his comedy too. He joked that Kimmel's monologues sound like they were pieced together by a team of interns recycling old Twitter memes, delivered with the tired energy of someone trying to explain cryptocurrency to their grandmother. Rogan painted a picture of Kimmel standing under the studio lights night after night, struggling for laughs while his audience gives the same polite pity chuckles you'd offer a toddler telling a knock-knock joke. It wasn't cruel, but it was painfully accurate. Rogan compared Kimmel to a podcast episode you skip immediately, just 2 hours of rambling with nothing memorable. He tore down Kimmel's self-image as a thought leader, pointing out that his biggest cultural hit is still the mean tweet segment, a bit so overused it's practically been turned into powdered form.
Yeah, it's a good joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them, and I think he took that hit and, really dumped.
Rogan didn't hold back on Kimmel's personal hypocrisy either. He reminded everyone that, despite all his talk about truth and justice, Kimmel has built his career on cozy relationships with the very elites he now acts like he opposes. Rogan tore apart the idea that Kimmel is some anti-establishment figure when his paycheck depends on keeping the Hollywood machine running. It was like watching someone brag about being vegan while secretly running a weekend barbecue joint. Rogan wasn't just making fun of him, he was stripping away the shiny PR coating to show the hollow, predictable product underneath. The genius of Rogan's roast was that it wasn't just about Kimmel as a person, it was about what he represents. The fading generation of late-night hosts who confuse the stage for a pulpit and think a snarky monologue changes the world. By the end, Kimmel had been intellectually gutted and professionally steamrolled. Trump had already torched the building, and Rogan came in to salt the earth. The 1-2 punch was brutal. Trump shredded Kimmel's relevance and brand, while Rogan demolished his comedy and credibility.
Well, also, I don't think that conversation is a conversation that should be held in front of an audience in 5-minute chunks, like they do on television.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that you have to let air out. I want to know why you think the way you think. Him, sit down with Jimmy. Why do you think the way you think? Why would you think that it's okay to say that it's a real simple thing? The people that have been vaccinated, you treat them. And the people that took horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy. Really? Is that really how you feel? Like people that are sick from a disease that was funded by our own tax dollars? That's how you feel like? Those people should just die because they don't trust the government or they don't trust the pharmaceutical industrial complex that's been responsible for lying so many times.
It was a masterclass in roasting, showing two very different styles but landing on the same verdict. Kimmel's career now stands as a monument to wasted potential and overhyped talent. The harshest truth was that both roasts revealed just how little he has left once the facade comes off. Without network backing, canned applause, and a loyal audience, he's just another out-of-touch celebrity shouting into the void, hoping someone notices. Joe Rogan didn't hold back, striking Kimmel with the blunt force of a heavyweight bout between hard facts and an inflated ego. An ego that was already losing before the bell even rang. Rogan painted Kimmel as the perfect example of what happens when a comedian trades sharp punchlines for political virtue signaling, only to sound like a late-night infomercial for whatever narrative Hollywood is selling that week. The setup was ruthless. A man who once thrived on edgy humor was now reduced to a hall monitor for acceptable opinions, scolding anyone who stepped outside the ideological sandbox. It's like watching a lion swap its roar for a kazoo and then wondering why nobody takes it seriously.
President Trump trading barbs with late-night host Jimmy Kimmel after Stephen Colbert's cancellation. Trump posting to Truth Social the following: the word is, and it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late-night sweepstakes. These are people with absolutely no talent who were paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go.
Rogan tore into Kimmel's strange shift from entertainer to self-righteous preacher, pointing out how he's managed to suck the fun out of late-night TV until it's about as exciting as waiting at a DMV. Instead of making people laugh, Kimmel has become a predictable moral authority, wrapping lectures in a thin layer of comedy. The problem, his audience isn't laughing. They're giving polite applause, like they just sat through a mandatory HR seminar. Rogan didn't just call him unfunny, he said Kimmel has basically taken comedy hostage, demanding applause from the Twitter crowd as ransom. Then came the knockout. Kimmel fills the silence with smug grins and self-congratulation, hoping it hides the fact that nobody's laughing. Rogan summed it up bluntly: Kimmel isn't a comedian anymore. He's a brand ambassador for the status quo, selling watered-down satire to people who think retweets are a sense of humor.
The very thing that they use to control the media in terms of the news, they use it to control the media in terms of late-night talk shows and monologues as well. It's the same influence because they're the same sponsors. The same people are spending the same money on the same networks. And it has an impact. If it affects your livelihood and affects your future and your ability to do this thing that you love doing, which is hosting a talk show, and you're doing it on a network that is paid for by that money, guess what? That affects...
Donald Trump, the former president, followed with his own brand of destruction. Loud, unapologetic, and about as subtle as a wrecking ball smashing through a glass factory. Where Rogan was sharp and precise, Trump came in like a political sledgehammer, painting Kimmel as the poster child for Hollywood hypocrisy. He didn't waste a second, showing Kimmel as a two-faced opportunist who tailors his outrage to whatever's trending, delivering monologues that sound less like comedy and more like campaign ads for whichever side he's trying to impress. Trump labeled him the ultimate late-night lightweight, the guy who talks tough behind a desk but wouldn't last a single round in a real debate without cue cards and a laugh track. He tore into Kimmel's pandering to left-wing politics, saying he's so scared of offending his audience that he's turned into a predictable parody of himself. According to Trump, Kimmel's show is an echo chamber so airtight it could double as a vacuum seal for frozen meat. Every joke is either a safe, recycled jab at Republicans or a clumsy love letter to the latest liberal talking point. And while Kimmel tries to act like an edgy truth teller, Trump made it clear he's really just a Hollywood lapdog, wagging his tail every time the industry tosses him a bone.
When you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes, why are you doing this? There's not a chance in hell that this is funny.
You know, it's supposed to be comedy. It's hatred. I go on a show. He goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" I said, "I'd prefer no." So he grabs it and he starts really going crazy, right? And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald Trump. Do you remember? "I'd like to apologize. I messed up Donald Trump's hair and it humanized him and he became president. He's one of the dumbest human beings ever.
They stand there and there's applause signs. And then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explaining to the people.
Wow.
They'll train the audience how to do it, depending upon the set. And like, we'll be right back. Yay! And everybody claps. Is everybody really clapping that you're going to be right back? Nobody.
The president then focused on Kimmel's well-known habit of drifting into teary-eyed moral lectures, especially on topics he hasn't fully thought through beyond the headline. Trump mocked the idea that crying on camera somehow makes you a credible political voice, comparing it to a bad soap opera actor who thinks overacting equals authenticity. While Kimmel may see these moments as heartfelt and brave, Trump called them pure emotional grandstanding, carefully calculated attempts to turn sentiment into ratings gold. The problem, he said, is that audiences are starting to see through it, and the ratings aren't following. Rogan then jumped back in, tearing apart the idea that Kimmel's political commentary carries any real weight. He compared Kimmel's influence on national conversation to a motivational poster in a dentist's office, something you notice for a second, then instantly forget the moment you walk out.
You know, they wanted to shut me down on being on McAfee. They wanted to shut me up from...
Well, that was the Kimmel thing, right?
Well, did
you ever talk to that dude? Have you ever talked to him?
I've been on the show years ago, yeah.
Would you ever have a conversation with him in person?
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, they wanted me to be on his show in the summertime after I got traded.
Really?
There, obviously been some things that he had said about me that made me go, I don't know if I want to do that. I'd rather, maybe have a side conversation.
Rogan argued that real comedy challenges power, but Kimmel only goes after the powers his bosses already dislike. It's the comedic equivalent of shadowboxing, lots of motion, zero resistance, and no real risk. He also called out the hollow core of Kimmel's activism, which seems to start and end with snarky monologues and prepackaged outrage. No real solutions, no deeper insight, just rehearsed indignation, served to an audience trained to clap whenever the punchline lands on the same predictable political target. Rogan framed it as the opposite of bravery, comedy chasing the safest laugh, while pretending to be rebellious. Trump piled on, calling it a reinvention so fake it could be bottled and sold as Hollywood perfume, glossy packaging with no substance. Together, Rogan and Trump delivered a brutal tag team takedown. Rogan methodically stripped away Kimmel's comedic credibility, showing him as more of a political spokesperson than a true entertainer. Between Rogan's precise strikes and Trump's heavy bombardment, Kimmel's late-night empire looked less like a fortress of relevance and more like a sandcastle waiting for the tide to wash it away.